It is already week 4 of the college football season. We've seen a lot of football, but we still have a lot of football yet to come. It's a great time to be a college football fan. But on this show, we break down and predict the most watchable games of the week and the top 15 teams in the country. We also give you the very best bets of the week. We only care about the cream of the crop on this show, so we only talk about the best. But of course, we're going to talk about the worst of the best to start this video, and that is the Texas Longhorns. Yes, the Longhorns once again made it into this video because we're a Texas-based program, so we're going to talk about a Texas matchup here. Texas on the road at Texas Tech, coming off of that shaky start but good win versus UTSA to follow up that Alabama game. And then Texas Tech, who lost on the road at NC State. Not too much to be ashamed about by Texas Tech. It's a first-year head coach in Joey McGuire, and they went on the road against a pretty good team. Texas has gotten over that Alabama hangover, it seems like, and that's a good thing. They started the game slow, but they were able to weather that storm and come out and, pull away from UTSA at home. They had a good turnout at home, and the program seems to be heading in the right direction. Now they take on their their only road test of the year so far, on the road at Texas Tech. Never an easy place to play. It's never fun to go to Texas Tech. Their fans can be brutal. Lubbock is a crazy party town. It's a cool college atmosphere, and they've sold out the stadium. Texas Tech's a pretty good defensive team. They might not have the offense we're used to seeing from Texas Tech. And Texas is obviously an offensive powerhouse when they have Quinn Ewers. Not sure if he's playing or not, but I do know they're missing their best defender in Overshone for the first half. So let's see how that affects their defense. Defense has been pretty good, especially against Bama this year. But going on the road at Texas Tech, I don't think that's the kind of game that can sneak up on you. I think that's a known environment. It's kind of a rivalry. It's not like a intense rivalry, but it's a rivalry. And I think Texas is ready for the test. I think this is not the kind of game that sneaks up on Texas. And I think they're able to pull it out and win on the road. I think there are games further down on their schedule that they'll trip up on. I'm looking at you, Kansas, and no, I'm not just making the meme anymore. Kansas is legit, and how will that go? I don't know. I can't wait to talk about that one when that comes. But I have Texas winning on the road. Probably a cover here, too. I'm not making it one of my best bets, but I would guess Texas covers. USC has been a team that's been in the forefront, especially in the national media. Ground zero for the NIL transfer portal era. All their skilled players on offense are transfer portal guys. But they go on the road against a very tough, undefeated Oregon State team. And Oregon State's 3-0. They haven't really played the toughest opposition yet, but they did go to the house of a known Pac-12 serial killer in Fresno State and get the very narrow W. So what is that worth? It has to count for something. I don't know, but USC's traveling there. High-powered offense, ridiculous receivers, Heisman candidate at quarterback. Now, one thing about USC that I've always been curious about, and I think will be their downfall in the end, probably not yet, but in the end, is their defensive line. They have a tiny defensive line. I think their biggest guy is like 275, 280 pounds. I just think that gets overpowered by a strong offensive line. And I believe Oregon State has a pretty good offensive line, so that's something to look out for, a preview for what's to come if USC somehow makes it to the playoff, which is very much a possibility at this point. Looking at how the Pac-12 looks right now, they are the best team there. And yeah, Oregon State's going to probably have some success running the ball. Maybe even offensively they'll have some success overall. But I think USC is just too much to handle on offense, even on the road. I think USC gets this one done. I am staying away from this one betting-wise. It could be a really close game, but I really don't know. USC could also just pull out and win this one. I don't think there's an upset happening here. I don't think USC's on upset alert. But it's going to be an intriguing game to see how that offensive line attacks USC's smaller defensive line. Now, this is a game I'm very interested in. Clemson is one of the teams that I've been saying is a top 4 team the whole year because of their coaching pedigree and overall talent. Now, DJU has been improved over the last few weeks. I have a source close to the Clemson program telling me that DJU is feeling really good about himself, but the defense is maybe not performing to the level that we expected them to. So they're going up against a very high-powered offense on the road. Sam Hartman's back. He came back earlier than expected from some blood clot issues, I believe it was. How will this Clemson defense do on the road, and how will DJU's recent success travel on the road? This was a game that I had predicted might be a upset alert special. That's actually supposed to say -7, so disregard that -11 right there. That should say -7. Clemson's a 7-point favorite. And I do think there's a good chance Clemson covers this game. Not a best bet, but if I had to bet, I would pick Clemson on this one, and I might dabble a little bit with it, but it's not a best bet by any means. It could be a tough road game, road test for Clemson. The best opposition we've seen Clemson face has been what? Georgia Tech? So very intriguing. Wake Forest does not have a great defense, so Clemson's offense should have another chance to keep things cooking. And then the game of the week, as said by ESPN College Game Day, they travel to this game. Great matchup of SEC, classic SEC teams. Florida has dominated this matchup recently, but Tennessee is that team this year. I've been high on Tennessee. I have them in my top 10, as you'll see here soon. Florida had a great start to the season versus Utah, but has not lived up to the standard that Anthony Richardson and this offense set for themselves in that game. Now they travel on the road for the first time. Remember the Ole Miss at Neyland last year when Lane Kiffin came back to town? I expect an environment maybe not as hostile, but definitely as rowdy as that, with Tennessee being poised to make a run at the SEC East, although I think Georgia might have something to say about that, but trying to make a run at the SEC East. And I think Tennessee bulls over Florida, and I am definitely calling this one of my best bets of the week. This is my best bet by a wide margin. I'm hitting this one hard. I think at home, with the struggles that we've seen from Florida the last couple of weeks, Tennessee's defense has improved. Their defense was the reason they were able to win on the road versus Pitt, and we know what this offense can do. I have Tennessee winning this one big. Now, finally, my game of the week every week, and this week I am once again unbiasedly calling this the popcorn game of the week. Texas A&M versus Arkansas, neutral site at Jerry World, AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Dallas, Texas. I did a video on this one, so if you want to hear a bigger breakdown, go check that out. But essentially, it's a matchup of styles here, or matchup of deficiency. Arkansas with the great run defense, great front seven, great pass rush, but a lackluster secondary. Texas A&M with an unproven offense that I have deemed improving based on the players they have coming back and the new quarterback. What will that dynamic be like? And then on the other side of the ball, Texas A&M has a solid secondary. Maybe not the best up front in terms of stopping the run or getting a pass rush, but that is a very talented defensive line that is gaining experience every week, and they're poised to make a jump, especially with the four starters Texas A&M gets back on defense, and the multiple rotational players, including Walter Nolan and Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy, two top 10 prospects at defensive line from that 2022 class, coming back into the fray this week. How will this Texas A&M defensive line affect KJ Jefferson in this strong Arkansas running game? The Texas A&M secondary is as strong as you'll see in the country. I think this is the week Texas A&M takes steps offensively because they're going to have to pass the ball to get this running game going and to get this offense going. And Arkansas has shown that they are a they are a willing dance partner to let your offense get the passing game going. The offensive line has shown steps in protection, and I think they take more steps this week, especially with starting center Bryce Foster getting back into rhythm this week after 2 weeks of practice and a game under his belt after coming off of a sickness this camp. I think Texas A&M gets the ball rolling on offense and ends up winning by scoring multiple touchdowns and winning by an over a touchdown margin. I think Texas A&M wins and covers. And Vegas still likes Texas A&M this week and versus Miami, despite what the national media says. How funny is that? But these are my favorite games to watch this week. A couple honorable mentions. Kansas State at OU should be a fun one to watch. Kansas State maybe got caught looking ahead last week and dropped one inexplicably. That's one you're going to want to keep an eye on. And that's probably my other one I'd be looking at. But let's go ahead and take a look at the best bets. We already mentioned one. I am calling this one my best bet of the week by far. But I'm always going to give you at least two. The next one I'll give you is Baylor plus 2.5 points on the road versus Iowa State. Baylor looks like a monstrous defensive team with a quarterback who can absolutely sling the ball and a great coach. I think all of these things, a strong defense, a solid quarterback, and a good coach, are the recipe to go on the road with success at Iowa State. And if you're going to give me Baylor plus points versus Iowa State, I'm taking that all day to the bank. And of course, I love doing it. One of my favorite things to do is giving you my top 15 teams in the country for no other reason than the fact that I like to do it. And we only do the top 15 because, once again, we only care about the cream of the crop on this show. Starting at number 15, we got Utah. They have maintained the status quo after losing on the road at Florida, a hostile, strong environment. Florida played a great game that game. That game could have gone any way, either direction. At a neutral site, Utah maybe wins that one. Or if they play it again at Florida, Utah probably wins it. I have dropped them one spot, but that's just to make room for Washington, who destroyed Michigan State despite the close score. It was not as close as that score indicates. Washington's surprising a lot of people this year. No one had high expectations for them. They destroyed Michigan State last week. NC State, they had a scare versus East Carolina to start the year, but they've done nothing but win. They beat a tough Texas Tech team at home. I'm giving them a little bit of love, getting them into my top 15. This is their debut at 13. Penn State making a huge jump. I don't think I had them in my top 15 or top 20 last week, but going on the road and doing what they did at Auburn, who's not a great team, but just doing it in that environment, silencing that crowd very quickly. That run game of Penn State is legit. That quarterback is steady and secure. And Sean Clifford, I like Penn State a lot now. They are definitely on the radar of the college football world. Oklahoma State has done nothing but put up video game-like numbers on offense. Let's see them get into conference play, see what they can do. But just by all rights, they're a top 12 team. Got them at number 11. Tennessee, I have in my top 10. They've done nothing but win. A tough game on the road at Pitt. Maintaining the status quo against lesser opponents, showing what they have on offense, showing improvement on defense, improvement in the depth, good coaching, great game for them coming up this weekend, hosting Florida. Kentucky at 9, they beat Florida, they've done nothing but win. Kind of the same situation at Tennessee, they do nothing but win, they have a good win under their belt. Let's see them get into conference play and see how that thing trends. And then Arkansas, I do have dropping a spot, but that's because the next team I have looked really good. And Arkansas kind of struggled against Missouri State by way of turnovers and just kind of getting out schemed to start the game. Their talent took over, and they were able to beat Missouri State. But I have Oklahoma at 7 now. I bumped them up a spot over Arkansas. I don't care what game it is or what team it is. If you go on the road and dominate a Power 5 school, I'm going to give you some love because I wasn't so sure about Oklahoma with what they had done so far in the year. But going on the road and absolutely taking care of business at Nebraska, doing what you're supposed to do. I don't care if it's Nebraska. Doing what you're supposed to do on the road. That's more than what Arkansas can say what they did the week before. And I know Arkansas has the win versus Cincinnati, but I think Oklahoma looked really good last week, and I bumped them up to 7. Of course, if Arkansas can beat Texas A&M this weekend, I'll give them some more love and probably bump them up a couple spots. Then USC at 6 has done nothing but look really good. I still have major question marks about USC, as I mentioned earlier, that defensive line. How does that project when they go up against the playoff caliber teams? I don't think it does very well, but as far as how they look against their opposition, how explosive and powerful that offense is, you can't do anything but rank them right outside of that top echelon. And then at number 5, Michigan. They are the definition of maintaining the status quo. Very, 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 and very lackluster opposition. But they have done what they're supposed to do and then some versus them. I've been high on them. I think they're going to go 11-0 until they play Ohio State. I just don't feel like you can drop them from there, even though they're playing those teams. They're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. Unless someone else emerges against better opposition, they stay at 5. They have a tough home game versus an undefeated Maryland. Is it Maryland? Yeah, Maryland at home this week. That's one to look out for. I mentioned Kansas at Oklahoma as another game to watch. Keep an eye on this one too. First real test of the year. And then 4 through 1 are the same. Clemson, Ohio State, Bama, and Georgia. They've all done what they're supposed to do. They all have the talent. They all have the coach. They've done nothing besides the Alabama-Georgia flip to make me rearrange this at all. No one really plays anybody tough this week. Alabama plays Vandy, conference game. Vandy's shown some stuff on offense. I think Alabama's a 40.5 point favorite. I would consider taking Vandy to cover that because Vandy's offense is the kind of offense that screams backdoor cover. But that's it, guys. That's my top 15. That's my week 4 predictions, previews, stuff to watch, best games, rankings, best bets. What are your best bets? What games are you looking out for? And did I get my top 15 right or wrong? You guys tell me. But until the next one, guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, consider dropping a like and a sub, but please comment. I would love to chat with you guys. Until the next one, have a good one and enjoy the games.